In the 13th year of Jianan, a heavy snow fell over the capital. My father finally passed the provincial exam. Overnight, our family's fortunes turned. People came in a steady stream to congratulate us. Someone, I don't even know who, took a liking to me and hung a jade pendant around my neck. They said it would bring joy and good luck. I was thrilled. That night, the pendant shattered. It broke cleanly, split into two halves. My mother, gentle as always, didn't blame me. She even comforted me. Susoipian, when something breaks, it means peace. And if it splits in two, then your luck becomes 2 shares. I thought she had a point. I cheered up again, tucked away my 2 shares of good fortune, and skipped out to buy something to eat. On the way back, I saw someone sitting beneath the wall. Curious, I glanced over as I passed. He happened to lift his eyes. It was already night. His face was grimy, bruised, and scraped, so I couldn't make out his features. But his eyes were clear and bright, and they stopped me in my tracks. There's endless suffering in this world. If you tried to help everyone, you'd never manage. But he was right in front of me. If I walked away, I'd probably feel guilty later. I'd lie awake at night, haunted by those eyes. The snow was falling hard, and his clothes were thin. I walked over, scratched my head, and tried not to sound patronizing. I crouched down and asked, "Are you cold?" He didn't speak. He nodded, lowered his gaze, and stopped paying attention to me. Snow had piled up on him. He looked like he'd been sitting there a long time. I'd been cold before. I knew winter nights in the capital could kill. If I left him here, he might be a corpse by morning. And my family had just come into money we could afford to give. I brushed the snow off him, took off my cloak, and draped it over his shoulders. "It's freezing. Take this." He went still for a moment. He didn't refuse, but his face was blank, lifeless. I was young. When you help someone, you still want to hear a thank you. Seeing him like that annoyed me a little, and I figured I'd done enough, so I stood up ready to leave. Only then did he speak. "No need." Me? That made me furious. "Fine, don't thank me, but no need?" I forced my anger down and went back. "What do you mean, no need? You think the fabric's too cheap?" He gave a cold snort. "A rich young lady suddenly wants to be kind. You just want a lowly commoner like me to be grateful, to satisfy your need to give charity. You don't care whether I live or die." My head buzzed with rage. How could anyone be like this? I'd been ready to go, but now I had to argue. "What are you talking about?" He replied flatly. "Nothing. If you think you gave it to the wrong person, take it back." I was hot-blooded. Once I give something, I don't take it back. And I swallowed the words I wanted to spit at him, something like, "You deserve to freeze to death." He smiled, his voice as cold as snow. "Have you considered that someone will steal it from me in no time?" I froze. He continued, "You rich kids never care what happens to people like us. You throw gold and silver at beggars. Fine. You feel satisfied like you're saints. You sleep well that night. And us? Thugs rob us the next moment. An innocent man is not guilty, but a man with jade invites trouble." The wind cleared my head. He was right. I hadn't thought of that. He laughed even harder and tossed the cloak back. "Take it back. I'll be dead soon anyway." I jolted. My anger went out like a flame doused in water. I opened my mouth and swallowed a lungful of icy air. "What?" He wore a sort of careless despair. "People like me can't eat enough, can't stay warm. Just staying alive is hard. What's so strange about dying? Do you know how many nameless ghosts winter takes from the capital every year? You don't, and you don't care." What a person. What a way to speak. I stepped forward and pressed half of my jade pendant into his hand. "Take this. If you keep it hidden, if no one sees it, then they won't steal it, right?" Now it was his turn to go still. I held his freezing hand, looked him in the eyes, and said stubbornly, "I'm not what you said. I know living is hard, but I believe if you keep living, there's hope. So don't die." He looked shocked. Then his expression settled and he gave a cold laugh. "Easy for you to say. This pendant brings good luck, that's why I'm giving it to you." I picked up the cloak he'd thrown away and put it back on him. "If you need food, go to the tavern a street over. Put it on my tab. I can't do much more. Think whatever you want." His expression shifted again and again. At last, he tucked the pendant safely against his chest. His voice finally sounded normal. "If I can live through this winter, I'll repay you someday, miss." I turned, waved carelessly, and threw his words right back at him. "No need." Julian Sue was the sort of man you couldn't honestly call uncharming. Saying he wasn't worth falling for would be a lie. Being kidnapped is like death. You hear about it happening to others and think it's far away. Then one day it happens to you, for real. Even though I was lucky and barely faced real danger, it would be a lie to say I wasn't scared. When I was little, I'd heard a myth. The story was ordinary. An immortal was trapped in the far north for years, tormented, with only one thought left. If someone saves me from this sea of suffering, I will grant them 3 wishes. During that ordeal, I remembered that long-forgotten tale for no reason at all. Back then, I couldn't relate to the immortal's state of mind. After what I went through, I understood it deeply. Trapped in a ruined temple, what did I think about? I feared no one would come. I feared they would change their minds and kill me once I was no longer useful. I feared so many fears, too many to list. One moment I'd been burning incense, praying to the Buddhas. The next, I'd stepped into hell. Inside the temple, the statue was broken. I stared at its carved eyes and prayed in confusion and desperation. People say the bodhisattvas are merciful and save the world. God, save me. Please save me. The one who appeared wasn't a god or a bodhisattva. It was the one person I'd ruled out first, the young prince. Did he look exhausted? Red rimmed the corners of his eyes as if he hadn't slept in days. Of course, it could also have been the redness of indulgence. Behind him were soldiers from Prince Duan's residence holding lanterns and torches. Backlit, he looked at me from the glare. The young prince was handsome, a slender, high-nosed bridge, brows slanting toward his temples. Beautiful people always seem to have eyes that shift. In the light, his gaze gleamed, like a god shedding tears. In that instant, I felt dazed. Could Julian Sue cry too? And then, what happened after that? Luna pressed me about the kidnapping. Then I thought, if someone saved me, I would grant them 3 wishes, no matter what. Luna beamed. Then what did the prince wish for? I was quiet for a moment. I never told him that idea. I'm grateful to the prince, but I don't think there's anything I could do for him. She looked even more anxious than I was. She slapped her thigh. How could that be? If the prince knew how you felt, he'd be so happy. Even if you just bought him a candied hawthorn skewer, he'd love it. As long as it's from you, he'll definitely like it. Me. I patted her head with pity. Luna, read fewer romance storybooks. They're all made up by poor scholars who can't find wives. None of it's real. Vows, eternal love, mutual devotion, those are all lies. She looked ready to argue, so I continued, as if teaching a child. Someone like the prince has held power for a long time. There's nothing he can't get, and he doesn't lack women who like him. Luna insisted. So what? He likes you. I tried to put it plainly. Before my father became an official, we were poor for a while. All our money went to his exams. Life was hard. Back then, even a plain steamed bun felt delicious. Later, when we had a bit more, it wasn't just buns. There was almost nothing I couldn't eat if I wanted it, so a bun stopped being precious. She half understood, I sighed. To the prince, I'm probably just a plain steamed bun from a hard time. Survive a great disaster, and you'll have good fortune after. That good fortune in my case was taking Luna to the opera. On stage they were performing Fiona Yu, singing and wailing. It was already the 2nd act. Ah, husband and wife are birds of the same forest. When disaster strikes, they fly apart. Madam, I can only save myself. I can't save you. I sat with one leg propped up, tapping the table lazily with my fingers. I let out a long sigh, genuinely moved. Not only that, most things in life can share hardship, but not wealth. Luna didn't understand at all. Yet she seemed to lose the desire to argue with me and sighed too. Madam will understand sooner or later the prince's feelings for you. I wanted to scold her, but in the end I let it go. Luna was a maid from Prince Duan's residence. Not a mistress, but still far better off than ordinary people. She probably hadn't suffered much. She hadn't seen the world's coldness. Of course she believed in ideal love. I asked myself, why must I crush a young girl's dreams? Luna's status was neither high nor low. Her family wouldn't have to sell her to survive. She wouldn't be married off as a political tool. Her chances of finding someone she truly liked were still good. She didn't need to understand me, and there was no need for her to. As I was thinking that, on the balcony across from us, 2 people passed by in an embrace. Somehow they stood out. The man had his arm around a beautiful woman's shoulders, intimate as could be. When I looked closely, they were familiar. The one holding her was the young Prince Julian Su, the same man the entire capital said cherished his wife above all else. The woman in his arms was Grace Yun, the delicate lady staying at my residence, more entertaining than the opera. I took a sip of tea. Maybe it was too hot. My fingers trembled, or maybe it was the steam, misty and white, stinging my eyes. Luna had clearly seen it too. She pressed a hand to her forehead, her expression strange. I wanted to keep listening to the opera, but suddenly I couldn't muster any interest. I felt ridiculous. Julian Su had acted so devoted. Even though I'd prepared myself, I'd still believed part of it. So seeing him now, showing the same tenderness to someone else, my feelings could only be called complicated. It wasn't pain, exactly. If I had to compare it, it was like walking till your feet ached and your legs burned, then meeting a fellow traveler headed the same way. You talk easily, and the journey feels lighter. You're young, so you think the bond is special. After all, you crossed the same wasteland together. Then you reach the destination. You want to walk a little farther with him, but he waves, saying friends are waiting. He leaves without looking back. You aren't sad. You only feel a hollow sort of sigh. You always knew you were only travelers who happened to share a stretch of road. But you can't truly taste that truth until the parting comes. And then any extra hope you had seems pale, almost laughable. The chair grew uncomfortable. The noise around us turned sharp in my ears. Let's go back. Prince Duan's residence must be empty right now. It'll be quieter than here. But I didn't make it back to Prince Duan's residence. As soon as I stepped outside, someone came to tell me that Princess Charlotte had invited me to sit at the prince's residence. I was confused, mostly because I had no memory of Princess Charlotte at all. I never cared much about gossip. What reached my ears was usually the kind of talk so heated that even people who never left their homes could recite the whole story, like Julian Su's scandals. As for the royal family, I'd never felt much about them. I'd vaguely heard the crown prince was mild and refined, Prince Henry was kind and charitable, the 7th prince loved painting and calligraphy, but the 13th princess drew even less attention than they did, so I had no impression. I scratched my head. The messenger wore a golden imperial token at his waist, impossible to fake. I figured they probably wouldn't kidnap me a second time. I nodded. Then I'll accept. The princess's residence. I never imagined I'd meet someone familiar here. Princess Charlotte waited for me in the garden. I followed the steward at an unhurried pace. From a distance, I saw a guard standing quietly at the courtyard gate. From his dress, he looked like a close attendant. As we passed, something clicked in my mind. I turned and looked back, and met his eyes. Mim. What a coincidence. He was handsome, but not like Julian Su's striking beauty, the kind you'd spot instantly in a crowd. This was a quieter kind, like green bamboo in a back courtyard, like moonlight on a calm night. He didn't show off. The longer you looked, the cooler and clearer he seemed. More worth mentioning were his eyes, clear, cool, and cold as deep water. Truly, in spring wind and heavy dew, every tender look paled beside those eyes. So on the day I was kidnapped, it had been enough for him to show only those eyes for me to remember. I smiled, stopped, and asked sincerely, "May I ask who you are?" The steward turned back and explained patiently. "We were negligent and didn't tell you earlier, madam. Prince Henry is also here. And this gentleman is Lord Alexander Mew, the 3rd-rank commander of the guard beside Prince Henry." Alexander Mew's face showed no particular emotion. He clasped his hands in greeting. "Madam?" I kept smiling. "So that's it. I don't know why, but I feel I have a connection with Lord Mew, almost as if we've met before. Another day I must invite you to Phoenix Pavilion for tea." He stood still. His voice was level, exactly the same as I'd heard before. "Since you invite me, how could I not come?" I nodded and went into the courtyard. Flower petals lay scattered inside. Beyond the buildings was a pool with a few petals floating on the surface, like a tarnished bronze mirror. It reflected a refined pavilion at the side. A man who resembled Julian Su by 4 or 5 parts stood inside admiring the flowers, stroking his chin. 13th sister, this place is arranged beautifully." At the center stood an elegant stone table and stools. A young girl in pale yellow sat atop the table, with her legs swinging. When she smiled, dimples appeared. Her lips moved softly like ripples, showing two small tiger teeth. She looked playful and innocent. I had people bring these precious flower trees from Jiangnan. Third brother, if you like them, I'll send 2 to your residence another day. Prince Henry clapped his hands. Good. You really are my good sister. Then he turned and noticed me, the invisible one at the gate. And this is? Princess Charlotte hopped off the table and ran to me, hooking her arm through mine. She's the bride 9th brother married a few days ago. I've always been curious. What kind of woman could make 9th brother so obsessed? How convenient. I was curious too. Prince Henry narrowed his eyes. His brows and eyes, so similar to Julian Sue's, suddenly carried a hint of menace. Hidden in shadow, his face looked cold. The next second, he strode forward and returned to a bright smile. So that's it. I'm curious too, what kind of woman 9th brother would like. But judging by that kidnapping case in the capital not long ago, the 9th prince's consort is truly blessed. I forced a natural smile. It was thanks to the 9th prince's good fortune. He sighed, wearing the worried expression of an older brother. I do care about 9th brother. It's just that the poor boy had such thin luck. He wandered for so many years before returning to court. As his brother, I missed the chance to be close to him in childhood. I don't even know how to get close to him now. With you caring for him, I can finally rest easy. Consort, you have a fortunate face. You'll surely bring him good luck. My smile nearly froze. Is that so? Prince Henry patted my shoulder lightly. To me, the weight felt like a warning. I couldn't help flinching, though I kept it small. He turned and smiled. I still have matters at my residence. I've lingered long enough. I won't interrupt you and the 9th prince's consort getting close. Princess Charlotte grinned and made a show of pushing his back. Go on. I still want to chat with Sister Ellie Ling. As Prince Henry left, Alexander Mu glanced back at me. In the thin mist, I couldn't see clearly. I caught only a calm sorrow, as if he were looking at someone about to die. At that moment, I really wanted to go home. Princess Charlotte Sue, pulled me down to sit, brimming with enthusiasm. I was overwhelmed. I'd been frightened senseless by Prince Henry earlier. Now I was afraid of offending her too. I sat stiff as a board. She rested her chin in her hand and studied me with bright interest. Why does 9th brother like you so much? It was a great question. The problem was she'd asked the wrong person. But I couldn't say that, so I answered vaguely. The 9th prince is kind at heart and looks after me. It's not that I have anything especially lovable. It's just a thin thread of fate. She looked astonished. That's the first time I've heard anyone describe 9th brother as kind at heart. I smiled and didn't respond. Julian Sue might not be a good man, and he might not like me, but I'd never lacked food, clothing, or daily needs. I could go out and amuse myself without much restriction. The library in Prince Duan's residence was larger than my family's. After marrying in, I truly hadn't suffered. That isn't something to take for granted. Many women in marriages can't decide anything and have to swallow their anger. Countless common people in this world lack clothes and food and struggle in misery. For me to live in comfort, with enough to eat and wear and a higher status, that was rare. Even married to Julian Sue, the living Yama everyone talked about, I still wasn't overly constrained. On that alone, calling him kind at heart wasn't false. We had only the name of husband and wife, not the feelings. But how many couples in this world truly share unwavering devotion? Since that kind of love is unnecessary, I had no reason to grieve not having it. Perhaps you simply don't know the prince well. She blinked, paused, then laughed. I really don't know 9th brother, but that doesn't matter. I'm just curious. Sister Ellie Ling, do you truly like 9th brother? The prince looks like Panan, carries himself with grace, and has talent enough to rule the world. Being able to marry him is my blessing. She seemed disappointed. She asked again. That's not what I mean. I only want to know if you like him. The question was strange. Maybe she spoke casually, but I couldn't treat it casually. I tried every way to dodge, yet ripples still formed in my heart. Whether I like him or not means very little, given how things are. How could it mean very little? In front of me, you don't need to feed me official phrases, and you don't need to wrong yourself for what the world thinks. She leaned closer, chin still propped, her eyes unusually bright. It didn't match her sweet, naive face. She looked like a wolf under moonlight. If you truly like ninth brother, then forget it. But if you don't, why not divorce? What did Charlotte Sue want you for? That night, Julian Sue kicked my door open and strode in. He pinned me at the edge of the bed and demanded, anxious. He was close enough that I could smell powder and perfume on him. Any patience I'd prepared vanished. My face stayed blank. Oh, Princess Charlotte asked whether I wanted a divorce. He gripped my wrist, teeth clenched. She's insane. Don't listen to her. None of them are good people. It hurt. For the first time I shook him off. I think Princess Charlotte made a lot of sense. Divorce. What a wonderful word. Divorce means a clean break, so you part and each finds peace. It means an amicable end, so both go on happily. But Julian Sue clearly didn't see it that way. His face darkened, like it had on our wedding night when I sneezed right into his face. How could it make sense? It makes no sense at all. He looked like he wanted to kill someone, yet he didn't. He leaned in, as if to touch me, but didn't. After a long pause, he forced out weakly, "Don't listen to her nonsense." How is it nonsense? I was honestly surprised. There's never been any love between us, has there? If so, why keep going? Now you have a better choice. I won't stop you. I told you before, whatever you say or do, I won't oppose it. I just hope you'll let me go. He didn't speak. I thought if we were parting, it was best to be patient, so I waited quietly. Julian Sue lowered his head. I couldn't see his expression. Slowly he reached out and carefully held my fingertips. His voice was low. "I know you don't feel anything for me, but can you give me a little more time?" I was surprised. But then I remembered how he'd had his arm around Grace Yoon's shoulder at the opera, and any pity vanished at once. I only thought, the prince really is a good actor. He knows exactly how to soothe women. I refused to fall for it. I brushed his hand away. "Prince, my father is a minor official. He can't help your career. My family isn't immensely rich, but we don't need to cling to power to survive. For women of this dynasty, marriage is important. But, to me, it's not that important. Even if you divorce me, I can still live the rest of my life, leisurely and happily." Before he could speak, I continued calmly. "I don't have much ability or beauty. I'm not good at socializing. My personality isn't very likable. I can't help you with anything, and I can't be the person you truly want. Marrying me was a losing deal. Now that you have someone at your side who can share intimate talk, I'm nothing but an obstacle." His eyes lit up. He abruptly lifted his head and grabbed me by the shoulders. "Is it because of Grace Yun? Ellie, listen. I don't have even the slightest feeling for her." "Of course you'd say that to my face. You wouldn't tell me you'd fallen for each other at first sight." I looked at him steadily, gently trying to pry his hands off. "Prince, whether it's Grace Yun or some other Grace, it makes no difference to me. In your position, you won't have only one woman. Not now, not in the future. That will never change. He rarely lost control like this. No, the only one I want is you." How naive, Julian Sue. Truly naive. Did he think that would fool me? Still, he had shown me more respect than most would. He could have used power to force me, rejected my request outright, even punished me for daring to say this. That would have been normal. But he stood before me and spoke as an equal. For a moment, I was moved. Only for a moment. "Prince, I'm tired. I'm going to sleep. You should rest early too." I didn't act quickly. I thought for a long time. I didn't want my choice to be driven by impulse, and divorce was not an impulse. Often, a thought is just a seed buried in the heart. With no wind or rain, with no right conditions, it stays there. Quiet, making no sound, as if it never existed. But with the slightest push, it breaks through the soil, sprouts, and grows fast. If you don't like him, why not divorce? Why not divorce? When I married in, what was I thinking? When I recalled the pendant's origin, what was I thinking? Before that, I'd only felt that nothing mattered much. Going out, getting married. I wasn't interested, but I wasn't in enough pain to resist. Like how I chased after food all day. Not because I loved eating. It was because everything else tasted bland, and food, at least, was necessary to live. It could also offer a small comfort. If neither person loved the other, you could muddle through life. If you loved each other deeply, life would be complete. But if you were stuck in between, never reaching, never settling, like a rope dangling gold and jade just out of reach, and you spend your whole life exhausted, never able to grasp it, that kind of torment is the worst. My mistake was that I started to feel something for him. I started to hope. I'd wondered countless times why Julian Sue married me, why he was so stubborn. After I learned the real reason, I almost found it funny. In operas, a single hairpin can carry a mountain of love from one brief encounter. But where does real life offer such neat coincidences? Half a jade pendant was still just half a jade pendant. Even if he truly held the very piece I gave that day, so what? A childhood connection born from chance, how long could it last? If I'd never met him, fine. But if he married me again years later, recklessly, just because of that one thing, it only meant he'd built an unrealistic image of me around that past. The me back then and the me now are completely different. How could I bear the weight of his long-held fantasy? I wasn't the person he was looking for, even if the one he met was truly me. Rather than wearing each other's feelings down until they were unrecognizable, breeding resentment when reality failed expectation, it would be better to stop here. Cut cleanly. Each find happiness. I had just finished writing the divorce letter when he came and tore it up. He tore it slowly, patiently. With a pinch of his fingers, scraps fluttered everywhere, like the heavy snow the first time I met him. Not the lamp kicked aside, but the heavy snow in the capital in the 13th year of Jianan. He'd been curled in the snow like a small bird shivering through a winter night, too late to migrate. Fine white powder clung to his downy feathers like sugar frost. It made your heart ache. Times had changed. Now Julian Sue was the 9th prince of the dynasty. He wore brocade and a jade crown and held a gold folding fan. By all logic, he was worlds apart from the past. Yet as I looked at him, I didn't know why. The image overlapped with the blurred shadow in my memory. He still seemed like that thin, cold figure from our first meeting. He brushed his hands clean, sat down as if at leisure, and crossed one leg. He leaned back lazily. Those peach blossom eyes, with their slightly lifted corners, could so easily look flirtatious. Yet now they held something lonely and tangled. A faint red spread at the corners. It made his amber eyes clearer, almost wet with light. He said, slowly and clearly, "You really think you can?" I felt drained. I took back my old belief that he respected me. "Why bother? Why are you doing this?" He seemed to read my expression and burst into laughter, laughing hard. His shoulders shook as he slapped my bed, laughing until tears nearly came. Strange. People say great joy and great sorrow are two sides of the same coin. When emotions reach an extreme, they can look almost the same. He was laughing, yet he looked like he was weeping over a desk. Still laughing, he walked out the door. "Ellie, in this life, don't even think about leaving me." Everyone knows my husband, Julian Sue, is famously sick in the head. For example, when I wanted a divorce, he stopped me with all his strength. Later, he insisted on casting me out. Or for example, now, he really was ill, curled in the corner, burning with fever. It all started 10 days ago. Persistence is a fine virtue. By sheer coincidence, I have it. After the first divorce letter was torn up, I lay low for a few days. I pulled myself together, calmed down, and prepared to try again. Luckily, Julian Sue didn't come to trouble me. After tearing the letter, he disappeared. So 10 days later, after night fell, I spread out paper, ground ink, and started on the second letter. I never expected that halfway through, the sky would blaze bright outside. I thought the sun had risen far too quickly. Had I been so focused that I'd written all night? I opened the window and peeked out. It wasn't daylight brightening the sky. It was torches. The main courtyard was in an uproar. Normally I didn't go looking for excitement, but today I had an ominous feeling. I tossed the brush and paper aside, grabbed Luna, and ran out to see what was happening. Oh, I wondered who was making such a grand show. So it's my good third brother. What is it, third brother? Bringing this many people here? Are you here to warmly renew brotherly affection? Julian Sue's voice was, as usual, careless and mocking. Prince Henry had brought a troop of soldiers and sealed the main courtyard tight. He smiled. "I don't come without reason. I did want to find time to drink with ninth brother and chat like family. It's a pity. There won't be a chance." "Oh." Julian Sue raised a brow. Halfway up, he spotted me peeking out, confused. His expression changed at once. He hurried over, pulled me behind him, and whispered, "Why are you here?" I saw the formation and felt something was wrong. For once, I spoke quickly. "We haven't divorced yet, have we? Then this is still my home." If something happens in my home, of course I'm coming out to see." His features softened a little, then his face darkened again. This time he didn't look at me, he turned to Luna. "Take her and go. Now." At first, it sounded like he had business he didn't want me to hear. Normally, I would have left with Luna, but for some reason, I grabbed his sleeve as if possessed. It felt wrong, as if once I left, it would be forever. "Why should I go? I won't. I'm your lawful wife. Wherever you are, I'll be there." Julian Sue looked down at me. Only then did I learn how many thoughts a person's eyes can hold. His gaze shone like glass, wet with light. The corners curved slightly. I don't know if it was my imagination, but it almost looked like tenderness and joy. I wavered for a heartbeat. Then his eyes went cold. He stopped looking at me and turned to Prince Henry's side. He raised his voice. "A marriage bond is formed over 3 lifetimes, yet since she married into my residence, not a day has passed when she didn't think of divorce. I am kind by nature and will not force a heart. Since we are of 2 minds and cannot share one intent, then we shall meet our relatives at once and return to our own paths." I didn't react in time. Then he declared loudly, "Heaven above, earth below, I, Julian Sue, divorce my wife today. We release resentment and untie knots. Let there be no hatred. We part in peace, each find happiness." Luna unusually grabbed my wrist and tried to drag me away. I unusually guessed something and refused to leave. But Luna was stronger, and I was pulled away. I stumbled, my heart clenching. I turned and shouted, "Julian Sue, what do you take me for? Do you think I'm the kind of person who runs the moment you're in trouble? Even if I leave, I'll leave when you're still glorious." He didn't look at me. He smiled at everyone, hands behind his back, as relaxed as ever. "Ellie, you must be mistaken. My 3rd brother is here to reminisce. What trouble could there be?" Prince Henry, with no intention of sparing him, tore the mask off with an easy smile, as if talking about dinner rather than catastrophe. "I've always heard 9th brother and Lady Ellie are deeply in love. Seeing it today, it's true. I'm moved. Since 9th brother is so determined to carry the crime of rebellion alone, Lady Ellie has no need to jump into the fire, does she?" "Me? Huh? Rebellion?" Julian Sue's smile stayed light, as if he were hearing a list of dishes. A nameless fury surged up in me. I yanked free of Luna and ran to him, grabbing his wrist. "Julian Sue, why are you doing this? Do you really think I'll be grateful?" He didn't look at me. He went still for a second, but he didn't pull away. His fingertips trembled. "I never wanted Lady Ellie to thank me. I was angry enough to curse. I won't thank you. I'll think you're an idiot. What do you take me for? How could I abandon the man beside me just to save myself? Julian Sue, this is an insult." Prince Henry watched with his arms crossed, entertained. The soldiers watched too. No one spoke. Apparently, royal guards get bored. What I hated most was how he never respected what I felt. From the start, he married me without warning. And now, acting like he was doing me a favor by sending me away, he still never asked what I wanted. He simply decided. Yes, I wanted to leave him. But in a moment like this, with disaster dropped on us without warning, my feelings turned strange. It was like fighting with your lover, still sulking in hurt silence, when suddenly he falls off a cliff and ends up grievously wounded, barely conscious. All the petty bitterness vanishes in an instant. Small matters should be argued only when the moment is small enough to hold them. If a city is being attacked and flames are licking your brows, it's absurd to obsess over whether your wife stepped out with her left foot or her right, and whether she offended today's almanac. At that moment, death didn't feel real to me. I only felt hot blood surging, as if the deeds of sages through the ages flooded my mind. My head rang with nothing but lofty noise. Life and death are nothing, benefit all beings, and so on. Julian Sue and I weren't lovers who shared life and death. We weren't even close friends. But there were ties between us. To be forced to leave him like this, I couldn't do it, in feeling or in honor. I had too much to say. When it came time to speak, I fumbled. I gathered my thoughts. Anyway, I'm not someone who clings to life out of fear. I don't want to be the sort who flies apart when disaster comes. Even with rebellion, things moved unhurriedly. They gave him plenty of face. While I rambled, no one interrupted. Prince Henry lifted his chin slightly and snapped his fingers. Alexander Moo accepted a silver tray from an attendant. It was covered with red cloth. Judging by the shape, it was a cup. Prince Henry smiled. What a devoted pair of lovebirds. Since that's the case, drink your bridal cups here. Be husband and wife again in the next life. Alexander Moo lifted the red cloth and walked forward with lowered eyes. He sighed softly. Miss, why bother? Julian Sue ignored him. He stared at me without blinking, his gaze burning with something eager. Is what you said all true, Prince? With so many people watching, it's honestly embarrassing. I really was embarrassed, but I also meant it. With death at the door, my usual hesitation was gone. But every word is true, not one lie. Prince Henry watched. The soldiers watched with blades in hand. Alexander Moo held the poisoned wine and watched, because no one paid him any mind. That's what you said? Julian Sue curved his lips, lowered his head, and cupped my face. As if no one else existed, he kissed my forehead. You won't be able to run anymore. Help. In a twisted way, the scene had a dusty sort of romance, but I still have to say it. Julian Sue, you're so tacky. I looked at Julian Sue. Julian Sue looked back at me. He lifted an eyebrow. Something? I pulled my gaze away. No, nothing. The grand dramatic death scene I'd imagined never came. The next second, Julian Sue snapped his arm through the air in a backhand strike, and men surged out of nowhere. They slammed into Prince Henry's guards. Then Julian Sue swept me up, darted into a hidden passage, slipped out of the residence, and met fresh horses at the exit. Just like that, I, and his personal guards were out of the city in no time. My mind was a mess. Embarrassing as it is, I can't ride, and I can't shoot. So the whole way, Julian Sue held me tight against his chest. I was terrified. I clung to his waist and yelled, "Don't you dare drop me!" And then it hit me. Where was Grace Yun? That was what I thought, and that was what I asked. In the middle of all this, he still had the leisure to dip his head and kiss my forehead. I'll tell you when things settled down. That kiss made me even dizzier. Soon we reached the woods outside the city. We wound and doubled back until I was nearly sick with it. Then we pushed through the brush and a rough little shelter appeared ahead. Behind us came a rustle. Luna stumbled up, panting, wiped the blood from her face, and said crisply, "My lord, the pursuers have all been dealt with." I froze. Luna, so cool. Was this really the same little maid who used to chatter at my side and sneak sweets with me? Maybe my shock showed too plainly. Julian Sue smiled, pleased as anything. Just as expected of the best fighter among my guards. Luna smiled too. It's thanks to your training, my lord. So this is where you two do your loyal master and servant routine. No wonder Luna was so fond of praising Julian Sue when she first came to my side. Julian Sue flicked a hand, and Luna vanished in a few quick steps. He lowered his head to me. About Grace Yun. Listen to my explanation. Such a familiar, corny line. Normally I should have clapped my hands over my ears and shouted, "I'm not listening." But that felt too stupid. So I nodded and said sincerely, "Go on." He lifted a hand and tucked my wind-tossed hair behind my ear, naturally as if he'd done it 1,000 times. Then he took my hand and led me into a wooden lodge. As we walked, he said, "She doesn't have the surname Yun. Her surname is Shao." I stammered, "Isn't that a great clan name from the previous dynasty?" He nodded. "Yes. When she first appeared and tried to catch my attention, I had her background checked. Her fake identity was made well enough, but I still found traces. A princess of the previous dynasty, Vivian Wang, appearing before me. There's no reason for it except revenge." I was shocked again. I'd thought she wanted Julian Sue's favor. Now it seemed she really did want his heart, in the literal sense. He went on. "I don't know exactly what she planned. I pretended not to know who she was. I wanted to follow the trail and drag out the remnants of the previous dynasty." "Then where is Vivian Wang now?" Julian Sue smiled. "This afternoon, I got word from someone in the Imperial Palace. The dragon robe from my room was handed up. She probably meant to get me killed, along with my dear third brother." The way he talked, like squeezing toothpaste, was going to drive me crazy. I remembered my kidnapping and what Prince Henry said at the princess's residence. I tried to piece it together. So she and Prince Henry joined forces, trying to frame you for treason and have you executed? Then, could Princess Charlotte be in on it too? If she didn't know the inside story, she wouldn't have urged me to divorce you. But why was there a dragon robe in your room? Julian Sue, do you really want to rebel? He didn't answer me, he just stared. Do you trust me? I thought for a moment. It's not about trust. Every choice has consequences. Ordinary people don't care who sits on the throne. If you took it and ruled well so people could live in peace, that would be good too. But the emperor's rule isn't bad right now. If you raise troops, there will be war. People won't be able to live quietly. In war, the ones who suffer most are always the common people. He propped his chin on his hand, calm and unhurried, smiling. That's what I like about you. Please be serious, don't change the subject. He chuckled softly and went on. The crown prince is useless. My third brother has wanted an excuse to ruin him for a long time. Seventh brother is obsessed with painting and calligraphy. The other princes died in palace power struggles when they were young. That leaves only our 13th sister, and she won't fight him for it. He would have secured the position of crown prince in a few years. But unfortunately I showed up, so he's wanted me dead for a long time. The pity is, I have zero interest in being any kind of emperor. I only want to protect myself. He just won't believe it. I'd sorted out most of it. I couldn't offer any good advice, so I just said, "Oh." Then I thought of my parents at home. I slapped the table and shot to my feet. Back at the residence, I'd been hot-blooded and never considered my parents might be dragged into this. I only thought I could die nobly on my own. Now that I remembered, I sprang up like I'd been burned. Standing didn't fix anything. If I ran back now, I'd be walking straight into a trap. I spun in place, panicked, tears spilling before I could stop them. My dad. My mom. My dad. My mom. Julian Sue. How could I forget? I already had them moved outside the city. He caught my wrist and guided me back down. Don't worry, I'll take you to see them later. Life really is full of ups and downs. I let out a long breath, and then my thoughts drifted right back to the divorce. Small things belong in small moments. Most of what I'd been worrying about had finally settled. Like crying at a lover's bedside because you think he's dying, only for him to sit up perfectly fine, munching fruit and asking why you're crying. The human mind is that clumsy. In one short night, I went from preparing to divorce to facing a charge of treason. From ready to die to standing here unharmed. From noble resolve back to petty, tangled feelings. I took a deep breath. Some things were still unresolved, but I decided to speak plainly about feelings. Even though I now knew his relationship with Grace Yun, no, Vivian Wong, was nothing like I'd imagined, I still worried about something else. How deep were his feelings for me? I leaned in, patted his chest, and shamelessly yanked open his collar. My fingers fumbled, then hooked out half a jade pendant. Part of me was surprised he still carried it. I gathered my courage. Julian Sue, this is mine, right? No. I sucked in a sharp breath. My mind went blank. Everything I'd rehearsed blew apart, and I didn't know what to do. He continued, if it's not yours, whose would it be? Could you not pause like that? I steadied myself and asked again. That person under the city walls back then, was that really you? He went stiff. His tone turned strange, like a startled cat trying to look fierce. What? Does Lady Ellie think I'm dirty? What is wrong with your brain? I sighed. How is that dirty? I'm just curious. You didn't marry me because of that, did you? You're not some fox spirit repaying a debt. No. This time I'd learned my lesson. I listened calmly for what came next. He looked away. The tips of his ears reddened. After a long time, he spoke so softly I almost couldn't hear it. Huh? I leaned closer. My lord, what did you say? I didn't catch it. He glared at me. I felt wronged. I really didn't, I swear. Julian Sue shut his eyes, raised his voice, and blurted out as if surrendering. Because I like you. I'm marrying you because I like you. Did you hear me this time? It wasn't that I'd never imagined Julian Sue saying he liked me. I just never imagined it like this. Said like this. I stared at his face. My mind turned to paste. The words I'd prepared vanished again. I opened my mouth, shut it, and only managed to stammer nonsense. He'd said similar things before, but he'd always carried himself like some smooth liar strolling through a sea of flowers without a leaf brushing his sleeves. I never took it seriously, so it never moved me. Now, with the air between us so fragile, I felt my reason being hammered apart, blow after blow. No, why is your face so red? It's making me blush too. My chest burned, like warmed wine. When my fingers brushed the cool porcelain, heat crawled from my fingertips straight to my heart. I tried to step back and clear my head. He leaned in faster, closer than before, still refusing to look at me. My words came out in a stutter. Barely. I tried to cling to reason. My lord, we can talk, let's talk properly. Honestly, you only met me once back then. Saying you like me is too much. I might be nothing like what you imagine. If we go deeper, you'll probably be disappointed. He still wouldn't look at me. His gaze didn't dare settle. His face went even redder. I didn't know why he was acting so shy. And then even he started to stammer, voice low. Who said I only saw you once? So hot. Why is this room so hot? My mouth felt sticky. How? I mean, wasn't it just that I gave you half a jade pendant when it snowed? His expression twisted, still flushed. Anyway, I saw you a few more times after that. A few times? Not many. Just 800 or 1,000 times. I had no words. Maybe my memory really was awful. I didn't remember anything. Even our first meeting only returned to me through a dream. He suddenly gripped my shoulders and finally looked into my eyes. I know you don't like me. If you really want to leave, I won't stop you. But can't you give me more time? My head swam. This was too sincere. If this was fake, if it was all an act, then he could quit on the spot and start his own theater troupe. At this point, it would be wrong for me to keep hiding. I mumbled, my lord, that's not quite right. He tilted his head a little, eyes bright. This room is cursed. It's scorching. My throat was dry. I wouldn't meet his eyes. I pretended to study the walls. Well, actually, I also kind of like you, my lord, yeah. People should be honest with themselves. With that face of his swaying around me all day and with him saving me once, there was no need to deny it. If I really didn't like him, why would I have been willing to die with him? Julian Sue's eyes brightened, little by little, like night falling and lamps igniting one after another. Then he leaned closer. I could feel his warm breath, inch by inch, brushing me. Like wine. It slowed my thoughts, unsteadied my mind. With my last shred of clarity, I raised my hand and covered his mouth. He blinked at me, innocent. That look, like a pet fox that knows exactly what it did wrong, yet stares at you with pure eyes, cunning to the bone, banking on forgiveness. I sighed. My heart softened. I lowered my hand. Julian Sue, you. The rest of my words were swallowed by his lips. Outside the wall, flowering branches tapped the window. Broken clouds drifted past. Moonlight flooded the courtyard. This kiss didn't last long, mainly because his body was too hot in an unnatural way. Alarmed, I pushed him back. Julian Sue lowered his head and rubbed his nose against mine, eyes downcast. The emotion in his gaze was vivid, watery and dazed, and he leaned in again to kiss me. I pressed a hand to his forehead and stopped him. Why are you burning up? Do you have a fever? He didn't answer. He pretended not to hear. Like he was acting cute, he nuzzled at my temple, trying to distract me. I pinched his waist. Julian Sue sucked in a breath, and the arm around my shoulder tightened on instinct. A faint metallic scent bloomed in the air. I stared at his waist. I'd already noticed he moved a little stiffly. Now it was obvious, he'd been guarding a wound. I forced myself to stay calm, took a deep breath, and stepped back half a pace. You hurt? Is it bad? He stepped forward and closed the gap again. He buried his face in the hollow of my neck. I'm fine, Ellie. I'm fine. My feelings nodded. How is that fine? Julian Sue, how is it fine? If you're sick, you have to tell me, otherwise I'll be miserable. He let out a low chuckle and hugged me tighter. His voice was very soft. After a long while, he said, because the one thing I'm afraid of is you being sad. So cheesy, so nauseating, please stop talking. I shoved Julian Sue onto the bed and started stripping his clothes. He froze and clutched his collar, still trying to look composed. It made him seem almost frivolous. Hey, Lady Ellie, so impatient. At least blow out the lamp. I ignored him and said coldly, let go. I need to see your wound. He saw I was serious, not playing along. The act dropped away, like an actor stepping off stage and wiping off paint in front of a mirror. The bright, lifted look he usually wore vanished, leaving pale exhaustion. He smiled. Not the forced, flirtatious smile from when we first met, but an easy one that came from closeness. And because it wasn't guarded, it carried a faint loneliness. Ellie really wants to see? I gave him a look that said, is that even a question? He paused, then laughed. This time he seemed in better spirits. Something like spring warmth spread through his brows and eyes, bright enough to hold your gaze. He opened his robe. Julian Sue was very pale, so the scars crisscrossing his body, and the fresh wound still seeping blood, looked even more brutal. The wound was new. The scars were old. Thinking of that time when his status was low, it wasn't hard to guess where they'd come from. He turned his head. His face fell into the shadow of the bed curtains. Unreadable. He said nothing, like a stray dog just taken in, terrified, yet still stiffly baring its belly, offering its softest place to its new owner. I touched the scars gently. He jerked as if shocked. Then he grabbed my wrist, his grip holding a hint of pleading. "It's ugly. Don't look." He was lower than me now, looking up. The corners of his eyes were red. All at once, a poem drifted through my mind. In old days, I would not comb my hair, silk strands falling over both shoulders. Gently, I lay on my lover's knees. Where is there that cannot be pitied? That look, honestly, how could it not be pitied? Pathetic me. I started to cry. Help. Why is this person so beautiful? Isn't it unfair to be this beautiful? Julian Sue, the only reason not to look is because you're too beautiful. He watched my tear-streaked face. Something in his expression loosened. Light flickered in his eyes. Ellie, is this because you're worried about me? No, it's because you're weaponizing your looks. Yes. I wiped my tears and lied without blinking, following his lead. The moment I saw his scars, I thought of my childhood. We weren't rich, and poverty had its hardships, but I'd never truly been harmed. Facing what he'd suffered, a quiet guilt rose in me, the guilt of the luckier person. Back then, I could do so little. I didn't help you more. I'm sorry. He stared at me without blinking and leaned closer and closer. The weight of emotion in his eyes made me panic. Before I could react, he was right there, close enough for our noses to touch. "Ah, my lord, there's word from the capital." The door suddenly swung open. Luna's voice cut in behind us. "Oh, sorry, carry on." "Luna." I cleared my throat twice to stop her and patted my overheated face, forcing myself to sound proper. "Bring the medicine kit. My lord is injured." I'm not good at treating wounds. Strictly speaking, I'm completely hopeless. That fact makes me feel lucky. It also means I know myself. I won't do what those storybook girls do, crying as they bandage their lovers. This should be handled by someone who knows what they're doing. Otherwise, you can make it worse. So I stepped back and told Luna to dress his wound. Julian Sue lounged there. "No." Julian Sue smiled at me, then casually traced a little gesture in the air with his finger. "I want Ellie to bandage me." I refused flatly. "I don't know how." Luna didn't look surprised. She simply left. "Call me if you need anything. I'll be outside." I was horrified. "Julian Sue, what are you doing? I really can't." "Hey, Lulu, don't go." "Lulu? Your master is bleeding on the bed. How can you just leave? After you clean the wound, put on medicine and bandage it. That's all. You've got this, ma'am." After tossing that out, Luna shut the door. Julian Sue lay back with one arm as a pillow, legs crossed. If his abdomen hadn't been bleeding steadily, he would have looked charming enough. Once I accepted that the young prince truly had something wrong with his head, I kept my eyes down and walked over in grim seriousness. I rinsed a white cloth in the warm water basin and carefully wiped his wound. I wanted to complain that Luna was being irresponsible, dumping this on someone with zero experience, but I was afraid he'd take it out on her, so I swallowed it. He watched me, coaxing. "Ellie, it hurts." I immediately lifted my hands away. "I told you I can't do this. I'm calling Luna in." He caught my hand. "A kiss from Ellie will make it better." Sick. I lowered my head and pecked the patient's forehead. When I finished clumsily dealing with the wound, I let out a long breath and climbed onto the bed, shamelessly squeezing in beside him. "In the days ahead, what do you plan to do, my lord?" He brushed the loose hair at my temple behind my ear like it was the most natural thing in the world and smiled at me, eyes curving. "Ellie, do you want to be empress?" "No." My answer was immediate. "I won't interfere with your choice, but I truly don't want it." His hand hovered and didn't fall. He cupped my face, fingertips lightly stroking my cheek. His smile was clean and faint, like a high autumn sky. "Everyone loves glory and wealth. I want to give you power and rank. One person below 10,000 above. I won't marry anyone else. All honors only for you. In this dynasty, from commoners to nobles and ministers, they will all bow to you." I was baffled. "Do I look like someone who'd like that?" He asked. "Then what kind of life do you like?" I thought carefully and answered seriously. "Our dynasty favors farming over trade, but I think being a rich merchant sounds good. In Jiangnan, the silk and salt merchants are filthy rich. That seems better than being some idle prince or petty official. No scheming, no political storms, just easy and free. He looked thoughtful, so I added, "Of course, that's only my view, and it's biased. Wealth and status can vanish in an instant if things change. If the treasury runs dry, the first to be raided will be the salt merchants. Being an official has its suffering, doing business has its suffering, and once you're far from the people and used to luxury, you stop understanding their hardships. Then you can't do anything that truly benefits them." He took my hand and pressed it to his cheek, tilting his head to rub against it. He murmured, Seeing he was actually listening, I grew bolder. If things settle down, I want to take some savings and go somewhere quiet. Start a small business. No eyes on us, no need to follow all those rules from court and the palace. That would be so exhausting. Then, what about me? He cut in suddenly, lips pressed, putting on a pitiful look. In the future you're describing, is there no place for me? I grinned and patted his face. I'm afraid you wouldn't get used to that life, my lord. He suddenly yanked my hand and pulled me into his arms, burying his face in my neck. I yelped, afraid of jarring his wound. His voice was muffled against my collarbone. How could I not? As long as I'm with you, I can fight for the throne for you. I can farm for you too. I pictured him rolling up his sleeves and plowing a field. It was ridiculous. His breath brushed my skin, ticklish and sweet, and I couldn't help laughing. Your hands weren't made to hold a hoe, but they weren't made to hold a blade either. His voice dipped. Anything is fine, Ellie. Just don't let go of me. I stared at the ceiling and went quiet. All meetings of love are brief. Nothing lasts long. When you meet, you will part. All who live will die. His feelings might fade one day. He might marry someone else. Even in our current situation, if tomorrow brought life and death, that would be normal. But because of that, every moment we can be close now feels more precious. Practitioners keep death in mind, and so they practice diligently. Foolish as I am, thinking of life's uncertainty only makes me treasure the present. I reached out, hugged Julian slowly, and lightly patted his back. I won't let go. He didn't answer. I looked at his face and realized he was asleep. His breathing was even. His brows and eyes were quiet for once. He looked almost well-behaved. He must have been exhausted. I turned over and fell asleep too. After we admitted our feelings, Julian became clingier than I expected. In the mornings, he always held me, drowsy and sticky, nuzzling forever before he would leave. He thought I was asleep. In fact, I sleep lightly. The moment he moved, I woke, but my body was still tired. I couldn't react, and I was too hazy to respond. I only heard him whisper my name again and again against my cheek like a cat, sweet and needy. But he was still a prince, and after what happened, there was a lot he had to deal with. He left before dawn, and I hardly saw him during the day. Julian didn't want me to follow, afraid I'd get hurt. I didn't want to follow either, afraid I'd hold him back, and mostly because I can't get up in the morning. I thought I'd have to face something earth-shattering, since it was basically a coup. But on my side, everything stayed quiet. The only connection to the upheaval was that when he returned, he'd tell me the situation carefully. Even if Julian surely chose only the good news for me, I still learned the broad outline. It turned out Vivian Wong hadn't wanted Julian life, she wanted the Emperor's. The dragon robe seemed to have been planted by Prince Henry, but Vivian Wong discovered it first. She used it, sold Julian out, found a chance to enter the palace, and in no time rose to the rank of noble consort. At a palace banquet, when everyone let their guard down, she carried out an extremely successful assassination. Vivian Wong was quickly subdued. They say before she died, she laughed loudly 3 times and mocked the whole court. She cursed the emperor in every way possible, then bit through a poison capsule hidden between her teeth. She refused to die by anyone else's hand. It showed how deep her hatred ran over the fall of the previous dynasty. The emperor truly hadn't been prepared. Even with guards, he was stabbed in the abdomen. He was now unconscious, and the court fell into total chaos. Prince Henry had already been fighting Julian hard. Then Princess Charlotte joined in. Now several sides were knotted together. Nobles and ministers rushed to choose sides. The situation was a mess. On my side, everything was strangely peaceful. He must have carried every hardship on his back. My days were simply waking up and waiting for him to return. In between, I read, practiced calligraphy, and copied sutras to pray for blessings. Other than not being able to go out, and thankfully, I don't like going out anyway, my life wasn't much different from before at the residence. Luna usually went out with Julian Sue. Sometimes she stayed behind to keep me company. Every few days, Julian Sue would return. The first thing he did was bathe. Only then would he come to see me. Once, I heard he'd arrived and ran out to meet him. I sprang out from the side and hugged him tight. Julian Sue froze. When he realized it was me, he let go of the sword hilt, though his voice stayed stiff. "Lady Ellie, go wait for me. I miss you, my lord. Stay with me first." He stepped back half a pace. Eyes lowered, face turned away. Even now that we were honest about our feelings, Julian Sue still sometimes wore a dark, tangled look. He softened his refusal, like a cat thrown into cold water, fur soaked through. "Lady Ellie, I'm dirty. I've got other people's blood on me." I didn't understand. The guards had already withdrawn with good sense. No one was watching. I couldn't figure out why Julian Sue was acting so awkward. Everyone knows I'm not good at polite talk. I thought it, so I asked it. "My lord, are you avoiding me?" "No, it's just..." He tried to step back again. I reacted fast, blocked him, and wrapped my arms around his waist. Julian Sue went rigid, like a rabbit grabbed by the scruff. I patted his back and held him there until he finally relaxed. "I think I know what you're thinking. Of course, I might be completely wrong." I searched for words, trying to use my thin language and clumsy kindness to reassure him. In my head, I drafted a whole speech. When I opened my mouth, only a few dry lines came out. "Anyway, I like you no matter what you're like. I've never thought you were bad in any way. I believe you now, so please believe me too." I must have guessed right. Julian Sue loosened further. He hugged me back, voice muffled. "Really? Heavens, what a pitiful thing. Who would have guessed that the living Yama of the capital, so fierce at first glance, could be this good at acting cute? So pitiful sounding that my heart melted, and I hurried to say, "Really, really." He held me a while longer before letting go. He pecked the corner of my lips and said out of nowhere, "Ellie, I really can't bear to lose you." Anyway, agreeing was safest. I touched his face and looked up with a smile. "That's why I came to see you. Some things you think are beginnings, but they're really endings, or at least an intermission." After that day, half a month passed and Julian Sue still didn't return. It wasn't as if this had never happened before, but the situation was special now. Not only did Julian Sue not come back, Luna didn't either. Alone in the deep woods, I couldn't help the worry and fear that kept rising for no reason at all. I worried about my parents, and about Julian Sue, who vanished after saying, "I can't bear to lose you." Like those stories where the leads fight through everything to be together, and then the tale ends at the happy conclusion. I had no idea how a couple, united in heart, was supposed to live. Worse, Julian Sue disappeared right at this moment. "I really can't bear to lose you." My heart jolted. At the time, it felt like a stray sentence. Now, it struck like thunder. The longing and sorrow I hadn't noticed in his eyes replayed clearly in my mind. My worry only grew. I had nightmares for days. In the dream, there was fire. There were corpses. In the clash of weapons, an arrow knocked him off his horse. In the chaos of battle, Prince Henry stabbed him through the chest from behind. Then I'd wake at midnight, drenched in cold sweat, unable to breathe. I wanted to open my eyes and find him sleeping heavily beside me. Instead, the bed was cold and empty, like hope offered, then snatched away. Servants kept watch outside in shifts. After catching my breath, I told them to bring warm water and a cloth to wipe the sweat. After I drank hot, calming tea, my racing heart eased a little. But once anxiety rose, it wouldn't come down. I turned my head and asked for the 13th time that day, "In these 2 weeks, has my lord truly sent no letter back?" Maybe Julian Sue had met with disaster. Maybe those dreams were real. Maybe it was all a lie. Maybe Julian Sue had been lying from the start. Maybe he never liked me. Maybe everything was meant to let me have something, then lose it. As I spiraled, my hand brushed something cool. I looked down, half a jade pendant, the half that stayed with me. The other half I'd given Julian Sue as a child. After remembering it, I dug mine out again and kept it on me. Holding it, I slowly calmed down. It was late. At night, people are easily swept away. I wiped my face, clutching the cloth, and blurted impulsively, "Prepare a horse. I'm going to see my lord." The attendant handing me things looked familiar. He used to follow Julian Sue often. Skilled, and clearly a trusted man, Julian Sue had left with me for protection. He spoke evenly. "Ma'am, do you know where my lord is right now? Do you know how many people to bring? How to hide our trail? Where our men are stationed? Ma'am, do you know Prince Henry's people are searching everywhere for us?" "All right. Stop. Stop scolding me." My hot head cooled at once. Realizing how stupid I sounded, I groaned. "So I can only stay here and do nothing? If you keep yourself safe, and we protect you as best we can, that's the most helpful thing we can do for my lord." With that, he withdrew to stand guard outside again. I let out a long breath and lay back down. Wave after wave of helplessness rose in me. Never had I hated so much that I wasn't like Luna or Princess Charlotte. I couldn't fight beside him. I couldn't stand in the middle of court politics. I could only stay here, far from the center of power. Protection was also a shackle. Safety was also a cage. Of course, thinking like this is spoiled. Someone else bore the danger for me. What remained for me was warm shelter, and I should be grateful. Still, I miss you. I hope you're well. I hope you're safe. Our dynasty has always respected Buddhism. My attitude toward gods and Buddhas has always been more respect than faith. I burn incense and bow for peace of mind, but I'm not devout. Even copying sutras was something I did only on and off. I'd skim shallow teachings as pastime. When I found deeper ones, I'd copy them, thinking that copying meant understanding. The shelter Julian Sue chose so thoughtfully had many books, including rare old texts. Some were made by eminent monks, using bark as paper and blood as ink. I was moved. With nothing else to do, I simply followed the methods in the sutras. I lit incense as an offering, bowed in repentance, and recited blessing Dharani day and night, 6 times each day. Over and over, I prayed that those close to me would come through unharmed. After 3 days of chanting without pause, I finally collapsed. When I woke, I was on the bed. My vision kept dimming, and I couldn't see clearly. Someone sat by the bedside in a guard's uniform, head bowed. His voice was tight. "Ma'am, you're awake. There's news at last. My lord, he." I'd only just woken and was already weak. Hearing that, my vision went black again. Dizzy, I grabbed his arm and demanded, again and again, "What did you say? Say it clearly. What happened to him?" The attendant turned his head away, voice strained as if swallowing something down. "Prince Henry was defeated. Princess Charlotte took power. My lord was badly wounded. On the way back to see you, the wound wouldn't stop bleeding. He died suddenly." My head spun even harder. My face was wet. I wiped it, and my hand came away icy with tears. All the strength drained from my limbs. My hands and feet went numb. I turned those few words over and over in my mind. I understood every one of them, yet together they made no sense. "Huh." The guard by the bed suddenly laughed. My heart seized, alarm screaming. "Who is he?" "Someone from Prince Henry's side." My body moved before my mind did. I snatched the dagger from beneath the mattress and stabbed upward, only for my wrist to be caught midair. The intruder tipped up the brim of his hat, revealing a face as beautiful as a painting. He smiled. "Ellie, it's me." My hand went slack. The dagger clattered to the floor. Julian Sue's eyes blazed like peach blossoms. Dusty from the road, he still wore that lazy, effortless smile. "Prince Henry lost and was killed. Princess Charlotte and I joined forces and seized power, and I'm back to retire to the countryside with you." He leaned in, arms opening to pull me close. "Ellie, I missed you so much." I kicked him out. Then I locked the door. Outside, Julian Sue scratched at the door like a cat, calling my name again and again, saying he was wrong. Inside, I drank tea. Halfway through his apologies, he suddenly sucked in a breath. "Ellie, let me in." My wound split open. I was still lightheaded with anger. I blew on my hot tea and slowly steadied my breathing, not even lifting my eyes. "Make it up. Keep making it up." He groaned for a while longer, then fell quiet. Outside, voices rose, guards, saying things like, "My lord, that wound is serious. You should go to a clinic first," and so on. It didn't sound fake, and I thought that among all his lies, the injury might be real. So I hurried to open the door and check on him. The guards scattered instantly. Julian Sue braced a hand on the doorframe, smiling at me with calm amusement. My head started spinning again, from anger, of course. I moved to slam the door. He caught my waist and lifted me up. I caught a glimpse of Luna. She was back. Before I could greet her, she gave me a look that clearly said, "May my lord and ma'am enjoy a long talk of deep affection. We outsiders won't disturb you." Then she shut the door at lightning speed. So it was only the two of us inside. I pretended to admire the scenery and ignored him. Julian Sue didn't rush. He strolled to the bed and set me down carefully, as if I were a delicate vase with thin legs. Then he leaned in. Our breaths tangled, inches apart. I remembered something and threw up a hand to block his face. "Wait." "Hey." Julian Sue looked up, wearing his usual innocent expression. A faint red spread at the corners of his eyes. He blinked at me and hummed, his voice thick with a nasal sound. "That day, why did you put your arm around Vivian Wong's shoulders?" After hearing what happened to her, I could guess that a woman capable of going that far must have had incredible willpower and methods. The fragile look she'd shown before was probably an act. What I'd seen then might not have been the truth. Even so, remembering that scene still made me furious. Now that everything had settled, I let my temper fly. I punched his shoulder. "Fine, you used each other. But why did you have to hold her like that? And another thing. People in the capital say you spent every night in brothels, don't they?" The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. He wasn't on the brink of death anymore, so that life-and-death tenderness vanished at once. "I regret it. I want a divorce." Julian Sue clasped my wrist, laughter still in his eyes. Putting my arm around her was to lock her pressure points and keep her from attacking. He leaned in and half-pressed me into the bed. Those nights in brothels were a cover. I used the place to exchange intelligence with my contacts. As for the divorce papers, if you like writing them, write as many as you want. He lowered his head and kissed me. Worst case, I'll put in the effort and patiently tear them up, one by one, with you.